Hey, it's good to be here.
Hey, and I know you got Netflix. It's one we love to talk about, and we got earnings this week too.
That's right. Yeah, Netflix, we're always watching Netflix. It's one of our most predictive. Purchase intent seems to predict revenue extremely well with Netflix. And, it's done well. Netflix is up about 10% year over year on purchase intent, up 16% this quarter. As far as people signing up for Netflix, looking really strong. Now, if you're looking for a call, the stock has done really well over the last year, but over the last few days since the Disney news came out, it's down quite a bit. And so before that news, and in fact, we talked about this on the show on Friday, I think before that, we were leaning a little bit bearish because basically the stock has outperformed purchase intent. And so we were leaning bearish, but now you've got the stock off about 20 points since Friday, just over the last little bit with that Disney news. So now I think our lean to the bearish side is diminished greatly. And so now it's a very, very slight lean to the bearish side. But yeah, strong company, strong data year over year, but just a little bit overpriced. But again, it's pulled back some, so maybe not too overpriced.
Landon, you're exactly right. There's been kind of a tone change in Netflix since Friday and Disney's announcement. But Apple's announcement. Disney's announcement. I was right the first time.
Well,
right.
They've both done some damage.
How long does it take for that kind of an announcement like we had to get into the system and to show up in your data?
Well, so for us, it's all about how many people are talking about signing up for Netflix. That's what we watch for. It's not watching shows, it's signing up. That's the key action that we call purchase intent for Netflix. And I think that what's going to be really interesting is when Disney rolls out their new platform and they start pulling shows off of Netflix. And then if they do anything with Hulu, that may translate into the data. So, it's not that people are going to be talking about canceling Netflix and signing up for Disney. I think that it's just they will sign up less for Netflix if that's the case. Now, I don't know. I think Netflix has such a strong hold on the consumer. They offer so many things that just pulling Disney shows and having an additional competitor may not be enough to get people out of Netflix. I think it just may add to people's monthly bills. This just may be another thing that people sign up for Disney. So, another thing I talked about Hulu, Disney had about, I think, 30% of Hulu. Then they picked up another 30 with their 21st Century Fox acquisition. Now they're going after AT&T's 10%. So they're really trying to scoop up as much Hulu as they can. And that could be really interesting since they're showing that they're willing to pull shows off of Netflix. If they can get that large stake in Hulu, what will they do with regard to competing with Netflix with that? So I think that's a little bit scary as far as Netflix is concerned. Right now, the data looks strong, but so I'd say we're leaning slightly bearish on this earnings report, very, very slightly. But long term, I think we want to wait and see how Disney cuts into Netflix, if any.
Yeah, and Lynn, I think the really important thing to note is your bearish lean is not because of negative purchase intent data. It's more of a stock outperformance, and it's more that it's more fully priced or even potentially overvalued. But you hit on one thing I found really interesting is that you don't see people necessarily canceling Netflix to move to Disney, rather that Disney would be more of a addition, something that people would add to their wide variety of things that they're already streaming on. But that's kind of interesting because if you look at how the market processed it, it was more that Disney undercut Netflix, and that could potentially harm Netflix as far as people moving. But it sounds like from what you're seeing and what your feel is that might not be the case.
I think so, because if you're talking about the price points, it's very low overall, and Netflix is anywhere from like $9 to $20, I think, depending on your service. I think Disney's coming in at around $7 or so. So I think it's just a little bit more pain for cord cutters. I don't think you're going to have a lot of situations where people have to decide between one and the other. I think it's the new norm to have more than one now. You can't just cut your cable and decide to go all in on one service versus another. A lot of these companies say, hey, we want some of that as well. And so they're starting to create their own content, and like Apple is, or create their own services or pull back from others like Disney's doing. So I think it's going to be a situation where people have to pay for multiple services, and that's just going to be the new norm. And so if you're very into Disney, you'll also get the Disney's programs if you miss those from Netflix when they pull them. But I think the only people who are going to say, forget Netflix, I'm in for Disney, are the ones who pretty much only watch Disney because Netflix is so strong and has such a strong presence.
I think that's really interesting, but for more on social media, we're going to bring in TD Ameritrade Network contributor Jenny Horn. Jenny, I know you're taking a look at some of this stuff too. What are you seeing on Twitter?
Well, people are super critical of Netflix. I think when you're at the top, people like to see you fall. And the space is getting very crowded. I mean, we talk about all these different competitors now, and people are really, really critical of Netflix for this reason, because now they're competing with these big names like Disney to put out content just as good as Disney, which seems like it's kind of missing right now. But our first tweet is from Ross Gerber, who says, "No question, Disney is in a much better position than Netflix going forward. I saw Netflix Highwayman in the Landmark Theater, zero gross. Disney takes a $1 billion movie and will drop one every few months on Disney Plus." So again, I don't know how you really compete with Disney as a Netflix, but they're spending so much money, something of $12 billion on content. They dropped $100 million just to renew a season of Friends, or I'm sorry, just a year of Friends. So it seems like they have kind of big shoes to fill competing with Disney Plus. So how will that really go going forward?
You know, it's funny. We're having this discussion, and I think it's accurate that this may not be a binary choice between the two, but the market is treating it like a binary choice because Disney has rallied and Netflix has sold off hard.
Right.
So I don't know if that's showing a binary choice, but it's certainly showing that someone's gonna eat, or maybe in the future eat someone's lunch. Landon?
I think that's a great point. Yeah, the market is treating it like that. But when you look at what Netflix has done, I find it hard to believe that they're going to lay down and roll over to when someone else comes in and starts bringing the heat like Disney's going to. I'm sure they've created a lot of great content. They've got the best service out there. They created this space essentially. And so just to think that Disney's going to come in and squash them just by removing their content and starting their own, I think is a little bit too bearish for my taste. We'll wait and see what the data says. Right now, you know, on this earnings report, LikeFolio data is leaning slightly bearish, like I said. But as you pointed out, that's from an overbought position, not from weakness. So we don't have weakness yet from this Disney move. It's going to take at least a quarter or two to see that flush out.
Good stuff. And also, you have one more tweet for us, Jenny, right?
I do. Our next tweet is from Jeff Fokker, who says, "Everyone is calling for Netflix death with Disney Plus. Thing is, with $6.99, you can keep both. I myself will keep Netflix and get Disney for a month when I need to watch." So this is kind of exactly what we were just talking about.
Right.
But I mean,
there it is in a live tweet.
Yes,
right?
I mean, I had to show both sides. So people are still super positive with the fact that they will just add to their subscription services. But I mean, this is a time where people are adding on. So when does it become the cost of equal to the cost of cable? Like, when is cord cutting no longer valuable, right?
I think that's the point I was going to make, Jenny, and you kind of nailed it on the head. At some point, it's going to be you only subscribe to so many. You can only watch so much TV. You can only have so much. And if the whole thesis behind why Netflix is so successful is cutting the cost down of cable and kind of switching to more of that on-demand streaming, at some point, if you're subscribed to Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, like you're paying more for that than you are for cable.
Exactly.
Right. Eventually, people are going to have 4 of them, and then they're going to say, well, maybe I only need 2. And then there's going to be a choice. Right, Landon?
And if Disney's going for that 70% stake in Hulu, then I think that's really the concern. Because Hulu has the potential to roll everything up into one service and really be a true competitor as just for cord cutting, just to be the one that people get. I think that long term is the big threat for Netflix. It's not just Disney, or it's not just Apple TV Plus. I think it's that service like Hulu that Disney's going after that large stake in that could roll everything into one and be the choice for cord cutters.